Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to chapter 52 of Oot, and of course this latest Oot Cast with myself, Rayze, Techno, my ever-faithful companion and tech support, and our guest today is Omen, who anyone who's been in the lore channels is already quite familiar with.
Thanks for the intro.
No problem.
I mean, that's probably as good as you're getting.
Accurate as well. Hello, everyone.
And yes, we open, I think on a scene that's actually very quick but kind of underestimated. The sisters, Haruki and Shiori, waking up after everything that's happened, with their respective green and blue eyes. Instant cut to black and we have to go. And they're still back in Japan, so where are they going? And this is the new track, which certainly lends a aura of like, oh god, what's just happened to us all. Kieran is... It's interesting to know how much Kieran takes kind of almost command in this. Not in the same way Jamie does, but she's not quite as lost as she usually is. Tetsuko down and Lindsay.
And we don't see Tetsuko again.
No, she is an LR character. She's Strike Raider's LR character, so she may only have very limited screen time left to come.
Yeah. Possibly
just retrieving her shard. Hopefully that doesn't kill her. But if anyone's capable of that, that's on their side, that isn't Hayato, it's probably going to be Tsukiko. But Jamie repeating the lines that she will be saying a lot going forward.
Yeah.
And Leia screaming in the background. It's interesting that Leia is in her goddess mode right now, but she still has her own name.
Yes.
That's a big thing. Does it fucking matter? Right now it doesn't matter. We need to leave. And it's interesting to see Lindsay so quickly slide into helping them out.
Yeah. And Sarah is still absolutely shattered after she realizes that she almost killed the planet.
Yeah. I mean, and just the general recoil from everything, I imagine. Not to mention being on the beach, which was possibly her own her own like ascendance to being like. There's a lot of questions there.
I love that bit where Jamie is like, "Run!"
Yeah, and Leia's just
go.
Like, "Ah! He's mine, Crow!" But the maid showing how professional they are by just handling it. And Mizue, poor Mizzy, losing Kay like that, not good. Ash wakes up.
And it's interesting that she snaps to here.
Yeah.
Which feels
when
like
she
it's
says
connected.
Kay, yeah.
Well,
Mizzy calls Kay's name. If you go back and forth.
Yeah.
Mizzy calls Kay's name, and that is when Ash wakes up.
But I also feel like it's connected to her sisters that we get in the
yes, back in the
very
beginning,
first couple frames.
All waking up at the same time. Probably likely when Kay let everyone out, as it were, when she... Because this all happened in the same instant, ultimately.
Of course, Teresa also starts tripping out here as well.
No, this is
Oxo.
This is Oxo as Teresa. And it's a really interesting dialogue.
Still has
really... Yeah, the fog is gone. I can see the path extending once more. Are the fingerprints on this road mine? Or did I make this happen? Or did you, she says. Talking obviously more to Hebe than Ash right now. But it's really interesting that
although
Oxo doesn't freak out here.
I want to point out that later we'll see Ashley come face to face with Vic and Leah and them having their like freak out goddess moment, and then Ashley just totally ignores it and acts fine, but when it comes to Teresa, she's actually like genuinely scared here.
I mean, Teresa, this is more out of keeping with her way of being, right? Like Teresa doesn't behave like this normally. Whereas, let's be fair, Vic and Leia are kind of prone to histrionics.
Yes, but I mean, I also feel like I don't know.
But she's also into Oxo's sanctum.
Her hair changes here.
Yes,
she's. When she gets pulled into Oxo's like pocket dimension
sanctum.
Here.
Yeah, sanctum. You can tell me I'm not... See, it really hammers home that Oxo is not like the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
Orxo is much more measured in her response, which fits her as one of the right hand. I sense we both do and don't want the same thing. This is an interesting line, isn't it? There's so much you could take from Teresa's monologue here, because it basically is a monologue. I plant seeds where I know the fruit I desire will spring forth. And then yet I know not how their roots and stems will look. Which again covers Orxo's method of karmic manipulation, cause and effect. She's past and future, in a sense, whereas Hebe, of course, is present, as this monologue describes in very flowery terms.
And the 5 leaves,
Yes,
why it's five
instead
of four.
Tsukiko clearly must be obviously, but why is another matter entirely.
Yes. This is important, I think. She says, because you do. Which it feels like that's a strong division of the goddesses' particular portfolios.
Feels almost deliberate, doesn't it?
She can't.
It would make sense, considering the whole thing has been like, summer and spring, and then we have, fall and winter, and then they seem to be closer to each other on the opposite sides. Like, it would make sense that like some sort of responsibility was split up between them.
Well, yes, but the key element here is that, as Carpo mentions in Leia's arc, that the Carpo is the falling action, and then Hebe is the rising action. So Hebe is beginnings and the process of a thing occurring, its potential reaching to the other, to its peak, and then Carpo is its ending, specifically how the expenditure of that potential. They represent change, whereas Orxo and Ione represent fixed states, sort of.
Certainly in Kione's.
Yeah, certainly in Kione's case. But Ash is unique here in that Hebe is not walkie-talking through her. She's not connected to her properly yet, it would seem. There is a connection, but it's obviously that seal is still in play, is what I was really going to get to. But see, Teresa, Orxo herself speaks here, which is an interesting shift. I do wonder if Orxo is not necessarily going to follow it back to Hebe. She presumes Hebe's the one behind a lot of the weirdness, but I think that she's mistaken here. I think it may well be that Orxo is sort of going to be stumbling onto the trail of Jacob/OG, who,
I also agree as well.
I think that she's stumbled onto the fact that somebody's interfering, or somebody who knows their powers so well enough to do so without them noticing.
The use of this, along with obviously the song that's playing, this repeated line, and it's done in this text, in this font, in this style, that I really feel is meant to represent Ashley's power waking up.
Yes, absolutely. And how it connects to technology, interestingly, as well.
Absolutely. This feels very much like this particular frame feels very much like Ashley is getting her powers here. Like, this is the very first instant.
Yeah. That we see throughout this chapter, yeah, she does actually use her powers. Though she's so used to the idea of not having them that she doesn't realize it. And it's interesting to note that that may well be in turn part of the reason why Hebe is so powerful. Her powers seem to be predicated purely on her impulses and desires, rather than on anything more planned and concrete, much to the frustration of the other goddesses. Which, again, fits for a being who is the manifestation of the present as a period of time and existence. But this gives us real insight into how out of the loop Ashley is. Not because she's stupid, I think, but because I think it's actually a result of her self-denigration. She doesn't feel worthy of being involved. Yeah,
I think she hasn't been paying attention.
Right.
Like,
because she doesn't think, I'm too weak for it to matter for me to know these
Especially
things,
with
right?
what she says earlier, later, when she's talking to Vic and Leah. Like, I get the whole point of, yeah, Vic and Leah act like that, but also, like, if you're paying even the slightest bit of attention to everything that's been going on, you would notice, yeah, they're acting a bit weird. It's more blatant with Teresa. Yeah, I know, but it's still really
But
funny
I
how
suppose
she
a part
completely
of it
ignores
is also that Ash is on her own now, and she's just happy to see them. So maybe that's part of it. She's just like other people, thank God. I mean, Ash makes a really good. I feel sorry to getting a little meta there.
I mean,
actually.
she is.
I
I mean,
feel
no,
so integral to this
as much as
story.
as much as we're saying, I think she's not paying attention. She is very self-aware. Like, every single
Yeah,
one of her
but
things has
but
been, she just
almost
can't really help anything, and she knows that. But she's not always like, "Oh, woe is
it's
me."
no. But that's the thing. Her self denigration isn't one of self pity. It's one almost of self loathing. She
It
kind of resents that she's not strong enough to help, and it's kind of
it's
baked into her.
I'm not. Yeah,
it's almost meta. It's
Yeah,
She almost has a like a meta perspective of it.
if
Like
there was
right.
going to be a character that had a meta theme to them, it would obviously be Ashley. With all this, with all the things
She is
she
pretty.
says.
She's very. If you think about even her joking dialogue in past
Yeah, that's
chapters,
what I
though,
mean. Yeah.
she's very genre savvy. Like she often invokes tropes and stuff like
And
that as part
here
of
we
her.
go, her trying to glimpse her power for a second.
Although she doesn't know it yet. Turn your fucking phone on. Come on. Again, showing that her power is born of need and want. She wants it to happen, so it happens.
worked for a second.
But only for a second. Yeah.
And then it, ramps up a little bit later.
But she was just, she's surprised, and then here she is.
It worked for a moment to send all the
Yeah.
messages forward, but didn't. Yeah.
Monologuing. It's interesting that she monologues, and we don't really question that she would do this, like speak out loud like this. Most people would like Leia's internal monologue is infamous for a reason, but it's always very internal. Ashley is speaking out loud. It shows how different and opposite she is too. It's another element I should say of how opposite and different she is. But it's. And here we hear a tune for the goddesses. We don't hear that often for a while now, actually. And it's interesting that they still they're using the same poses that Vic and Leia do. Like they often stand and talk and walk like this.
Once again,
But notice their lip markings, which show that they're not quite themselves.
Yeah. Once again, one of the big things that we talked about last time was like, why are these two working together? We were knocking on that door at the end of 52, and we were like, that's really weird. Why would have Kion and
why would Keone and
have
Carpo kill together?
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. Weird. But this certainly could be the beginning of some kind of explanation for it. Like, I mean, we have speculated that there's some time shenanigans going on here. So
the bravado from Ashley here, like clearly in like a comedic way, like she's trying to be lighthearted about it. Like,
yeah,
how are you going to do this without me?
God is slapping in jeopardy.
And then she gets really sweet at the end.
My heart shattered.
Yeah, like, I was really lonely. What is my buddies and stuff? I mean, it shows that she's very vulnerable. Please don't be mad at me. But think about how loaded that line is, talking to the two goddesses coming from a heap shard. Don't be mad at me. I'd hate it if you were mad at me. And these are really interesting lines. Keone as Victoria as Keone here. Probably the differences are blurred more than ever.
If this is all that's left, they can't sense.
I was gonna say, if
Phoebe's greater,
even after all this time, they're still like, "Well, fucking, is this it?" They're like, haven't seen her at all.
I would have slewn her upon my petals already, were it not for his. See, that sounds like a line that, like, it's very Carpo, but you could feel Leia in there as well.
Sure, but once again, if we were paying attention, Lee is never saying that to fucking Ashley ever.
He's not saying it out loud, but the thought. But could you completely rule out having the thought in the back of her head?
I think at this point, yes. I don't think Leah. I think we're way past that. True enough. Leah and Vic.
She
the
is very
goddesses,
protective.
yeah, nothing's changed. I agree, which is
But it shows you
why.
how much the goddesses are in control. Right
And then
now.
calling her ceiling, like, come on, like.
Yeah, come hither.
And
I've
then
come
Ashley,
a lot, but I've never come here just perfect
Yeah.
Ashley moment. And Fiona's. See, they think that it's a plan,
Great.
right? They seem
Yeah.
they seem to assume that she's doing this deliberately. But notice
And then
her Ash's
she's
eyes.
not-
Positions.
yeah, she's not afraid. He immediately is just like,
Huh?
okay, so here's
The
how
visual
it works.
effect that's used there too.
Yeah, with her eyes and stuff.
Yes, the one going gray, then the other going gray.
And then, but then lighting up in turn as well afterwards.
Yes,
It's almost like her power flickers.
that's
in
how I
response.
feel about it as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, which would make sense that she's slowly getting it, and as we see through this chapter, she
And
does.
maybe that's also why she's able to take this so blasé. Like if you think about presence as a power, right? Like the spiritual
That's true.
presence of these powerful entities.
He was freaked out.
She's been cowed in the past. She still stood up to Capo in 37, but she was still feeling the weight, right, of that presence. And she talked about like the weird feelings and presences in the past and how she didn't like it. But this, she's just like blink, blink. What? Well, I just used my app. Like
Yeah,
that's...
it could be a gradual thing. She wakes up instantly from the car. The first thing she sees is Teresa being weird, and she's like, okay, that's fucking weird. And then she tries to use her power in the graveyard. She slowly gets it. She meets them two. At this point, she's like able to push past the fucking presence of the two goddesses being like, where is he? And she's like, I don't fucking know. Use your phone, stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
You know? And then later it ramps up even further with her being able to actually turn on the phone.
You can use it too. We're all connected on it. Don't you remember? Like it's really interesting. Don't you remember being connected? Like if you read that slightly a different way.
Oh yeah.
And I love it's just a nice little nod to the... And then the two looking at each other right now is like... It's not often the goddesses get to be comedic, but... You've earned it. Sunrise. Cherish it. Pray your progenitor continues to stay. See, it's strange that the goddesses apparently sealed Hebe away, and yet the way she talks about that as if Hebe's choosing not to get in the way, it's weird.
I think that she sealed herself away.
Yeah, that's kind of my guess too.
Because with the way that they talk about her, not knowing anything, it really just to me seems like Hebe fucked off, like without telling anybody, without there being any indication.
She just saw how. I mean, it would fit with our theory that Hebe is the only one who basically accepted OG was dead. Like, for whatever cause and reason, we speculate about that. It kind of fits that she didn't know that
accepted,
that she
or was like, you all are doing this the wrong way. We just need to start from scratch, and
Well, maybe that's certainly a possibility. I lean more towards her just accepting he's dead, and because the way she reacts to CJ in 48, 49 makes me really feel like she's in mourning. It's an old grief. Like she's still stricken with grief, but it's an old grief. If you see what I mean. It's not a fresh grief in the same way it is for Kione, or a haunting thing. Just
more of her being genre savvy here too.
I'm excited for this fucking.
They've made a powerful enemy today.
You don't know how right you are, Ash.
Right? Like she doesn't. She manifestly doesn't know.
And then that self-doubt kicks in.
It's almost like it's a duality.
Almost like it's a duality. And I mean, it's interesting to note that Misaki is one of the best people for bucking her up when she did that previously. Like, Misaki is very supportive, and it's almost like they have some kind of dynamic.
Yeah, it's weird. It's almost as if missing some stuff. Interesting.
Interesting.
I don't think we've ever gotten a look at that concern from her before. Her feeling
being a foreigner in her own home. Yeah. It kind of lends some credence as to why she's
doesn't
so
really talk
close
about
to
a whole lot of stuff bothering her, I think, other than like it's the same thing being that she can't do anything when it comes to the group.
The why of that is she spells out many times. She feels like her troubles just aren't worth everyone's time because they've all got such bigger things to worry about.
Right. And another thing is it's like the same thing of her having her own like little itty bitty friend group that's not part of the main cast with all the Gloria and like that. It's
Well,
like,
they are
oh, yeah,
now, but
Ashley,
yeah.
it's like, oh yeah, Ashley does other things, by the way. Just want to point that out. Nobody, it's just not important to
She's
everybody
not
else.
just does other things, but she's the leader of her other little group of friends.
Yeah.
Like, it really speaks to the fact that I think there's a lot to be said for the almost jealousy or envy that Capo kind of reveals sometimes towards Hebe, in how Hebe, like, Capo, like, I was his queen, his empress, I was like the other, like, we were together. But the few times that Hebe comes up, there's always a shade to me of she almost felt like she was missing something that Hebe and OG had.
I don't know, it always seemed like Hebe was supposed to be like OG's best friend or something like that. Was very much
that's
apparent.
specifically
It's almost
mentioned.
like, okay, so sure, you can be his queen, his lover, but it's like, but sometimes you're like, yeah, but I'll never be his best friend. Yeah.
In the Jamie bit that comes up when it comes across that she's channeling all four of the goddesses, it's interesting that when she's channeling Hebe, she's very upbeat. She's very hopeful and excited.
Almost naive, though. Like, not in a bad way, but in like a very optimistic.
Yes, sweet.
Hold on, we need to watch.
I mean, I just love. This having Sarah's. Thinking about Sarah driving. Ashley's revealing her internal monologue here, all out loud. Like, it's adorable.
What if I'm dead and they just found out? What if I'm the little bit of Ashley that's left?
Yeah, but think about how this may in some ways be true. If you go back, like, she is a little bit. Like, she is the little bit. She's the vessel. Like, it's specifically mentioned that she is the vessel that is empty. That's why she's a seed or seedling.
And if we take what we kind of think about, one of the theories anyways, about Throne CJ and how he might have come into existence with so much of Hebe's power, that's also kind of true in a meta sense of if Hebe really limited herself in a spiritual way.
You go. I just don't want us to miss any more while you're doing your explanation, so let's just wait a second. Techno.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
She may just be the little bit that's left, like Hebe may be just the little bit that's left after a sort of spiritual death. Yeah.
I mean, there's this. There is a sort of a big question mark in that, as stated by multiple others, by Carpo, by Crow, they haven't seen Hebe shards in an incredibly long time. Like, they all mentioned that they are incredibly rare, and that the last time any of them saw them was like long ago, even by their standards.
Yeah.
So this makes me think that Hebe, if we follow this theory through, Hebe decides, like, he's not coming back, but I need to carry on in his place. But I can't do that here with these goddesses because they're insane and everything's gone wrong. So she seals herself away to try and start with a clean slate and take on the role of OG as a creator. Right? And then as part of that, she obviously has to seal herself behind this thing. But a goddess, a being on that scale, even doing it themselves, you're never going to be able to seal all of it.
All of it, yeah.
So if we see Misaki, Kay, all the heat power that they've got, that line has got, is literally as the last tiny fragments that were left behind when she departed and sealed herself away. The last bits that were locked away from her greater self. That explains why it was so easily broken, because it's like a car without a driver.
Well, and we know what Ashley's power is capable of when essentially piloted by Crow back in Leah's arc.
Yeah, like fuel for the engine almost. Like they provide the fuel. Yeah. It's like
that power is far more overt and essentially useful, more powerful itself than what we see from the other goddesses.
Who have to use
Like-
refined techniques, whereas Ash is running purely on instinct. Like, she just wishes for
Teleporting, summoning, like,
yeah, I mean, she's able to form things out of. She's able to form something out of nothing. When she creates the toe launcher, or even if not, even it could be an extension of her teleportation powers. Like some poor military, some poor armory sergeant in some base in America is like, "Holy crap, we're missing a toe launcher."
That would be so fucking funny.
yeah.
But either way, the same thing holds. She just wanted it, and it happened.
Yes.
And the chase of ideals is a lane I love for Hebe, and it fits so well. And I think it applies here. Is that if you, like, one of the cornerstones of Hebe's nature is that if you want something enough, you can make it happen. You just have to want it and believe that it will happen. It fits the optimistic, potential focused nature of Hebe to have these sorts of powers, right?
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And it really clicks, I think, with obviously with Ash's name, but also with Misaki. Like Misaki's ability to forgive Kieran from moment one, even in the face of all the revelations that come later in 50. Like, she did not waver a second in 50-51 with finding out that Kieran is Crow, and that meant that everything that was done to Misaki was done by Kieran. All the torture, the chains, the knives, all that stuff. And she did not waver in her commitment and you know, optimistic, loving support for Kieran. And that's staggering when you think about it. After everything she's been through. And it really fits with if we go with Child CJ being OG, which I think is kind of a go-to theory at this point. It really fits with why she's his best friend, because they share that capacity. Even CJ now, without the strings, seems to have that part of his nature still there. It's still who he is.
Jamie even says that that's the part of CJ that she fell in love with, was that sweet, that innocent, you know.
He
Zan.
says that later this chapter, yeah.
Yeah, and in a sense, the other girls mention that as well. It's at different points. It's just something they kind of is in addition to everything else they admire. Yeah, now here we get the girls dealing with the fallout. Sarah's still in kind of shock, I suppose, or melancholy. It's hard to describe. Like, I mean, I think any one word could describe the feelings that Sarah's going through right now. But it's very rare to see Sarah so down.
I mean, you have to remember they're all feeling what CJ's feeling right now.
Exactly. So the echo of that even more so. These are the only lines we get from Crow. If we go back to the start of them.
Mm-hmm.
These are the only lines we get from the Crow we know. You got what you wanted. Now you'll have to pay the price just like I did. How long can you keep this facade up for? Why? It's interesting that Crow's adjusted to that already. Why do you think you externalized me in the first place? Note that Crow's eyes aren't beady here, so she's not she's not in crazy mode. What are you going to do when you can't blame me for all your failures? Now, I don't think that Crow's actually taunting her here in a negative way. I don't think so.
No,
either.
I don't think so either.
I think this is her actually trying to warn her. In a twisted sense, she's trying to help.
I mean, I think she's telling the truth. She's like, yeah, this is what's going to happen. You need to be ready for it. Otherwise, it's just going to happen
but
again.
Also at the same time, but because this Crow is incredibly clever. Like everyone, even the other goddesses accept that she's very smart and very clever. So Crow must know that coming at Kieran like this isn't going to. She's not going to make any headway attacking Kieran, but she might be able to get Kieran onto a better path by pushing her, by expecting her to do the opposite. At the very end, when all around you is but cinders and ash, you'll realize I was always right.
It's so funny.
But again, that reflection flashing back to her own, and Kieran's lack of reaction shows that she's surprisingly accepting of the situation.
When it's all Crow's fault, she was always right.
But Crow makes a really good point in that now Kieran's in control. She is the apex of the Crow Gestalt now. Like, we've established that, and the rest of this chapter establishes that as well. She is Crow. She's not just a piece of Crow that span off. she is Crow. It's actually the Crow that we've known all along, the Red Crow, crazed and insane, who is the piece that span off. It's all her rage and fear and pain and agony and grief. Crow says she externalized her. It's going to be very interesting to see how Kieran evolves as she gets more of her Crow memories back and how that's going to impact her.
I think a big part of that is going to be up to Sarah, because Sarah talked in just a few frames about
it, yeah, later on. But for now, Jamie talking about, or she's strategizing. Jamie's handling this really well, in all things considered. Like, we don't see the panic and the prevarication she normally shows in the past. She's handling this very straightforwardly. Okay, she's being quite tactical about it. She's still reeling, but she's also handling it.
Is a really good progression of how she's been doing. I mean, this is no surprise to me after how she's been acting.
In a sense, this is the culmination of her character arc so far. But it's interesting to note this is basically Tsukiko talking to herself and planning it through.
Yeah,
well, I mean, that happens a lot, to be fair.
Yeah, but that's my point, though, is that's kind of... They say, oh, how did Tsukiko come up with all of these plans? When it's really, when you think about it, quite logically, she's just experiencing all of their discussions like an internal monologue, in a sense.
And Matoy mentioned just right there how she, based on her what she basically remembers, the little bit of, I guess, the forebrain of what she gets as Tsukiko, is that, yeah, it makes sense that Lindsay's able to keep it. She gets that from her time as Tsukiko, whereas Jamie says that she has a hard time remembering when she's Tsukiko, not because it's fuzzy, but because there's so much information to process.
Yeah. Tsukiko's recollections are so perfect and complete that it's like trying to run like 4 computers worth of information through one computer, right? Like, which fits. Yeah. It fits. But Mizue is still inconsolable. I mean, briefs aside to talk about Mizue and why she's affected so badly, bear in mind that she still has quite fresh memories of being Hayato when Hayato and Kei were first being romantic. So in a very real sense, she's still riding that high of being together for the first time, and of being on with that fresh new relationship that's so emotionally charged. Yeah. And now that's been taken away, especially after their little moment in 40, early on, where in 49, where she's feeling what Jamie's feeling, and her and Kay get into it, and it's like you could have seen that in some ways as almost a fresh start to the relationship, or as a new one even, and then having that taken away is all that together excruciating for Mizue. And Jamie just keeps going.
I wonder how much, because Mikan and Mayu are still relatively new to it, I wonder how much they retain of experiencing Tsukiko.
Mayu mentions it briefly up ahead. We'll talk about it when we get to it, but she does mention, yeah. And Jamie, again, is speaking for the audience here. Like, so much made no sense about CJ, but you just accept it.
Which is so...
Because you do,
so
right? Like,
funny.
When everything's so, weird and there's spiritual shenanigans, you just accept the strangeness. Especially where Skydad is concerned. Like, he was such an out-of-place element when you really think about it. And everything now makes sense with regards to that. And
it's still one of my favorite parts of this story is why did you think that was why did any of you think that was normal? Why weren't you expecting this fucking reveal, by the way? Just want to point this out. This was gonna happen eventually.
I mean, this is Anon talking to the audience a bit as well.
I know, it's so funny because then everybody's like,
okay, that's an Anon son of a bit. No, we'll save that for the retrospectives, but
nah. When it's deserved, it's deserved, but...
It's deserved, yeah.
No, but...
But again, she specifically invokes this when he was acting tough. I mean, people have mentioned in the past, they come into the server and they've talked about how CJ's behaviour seems almost schizophrenic at times, where he switches between being so...
Right? And then especially
sensitive
looking
and
back at
cool
the
and
old,
relaxed.
yeah,
and,
especially
and
looking
then-
back
and
at
then-
the younger chapters.
And then there are
too.
times when he's like stone cold, like again, 37. He actually calls him out on it. Oh, you're gonna turn Ash into a killer, and she doesn't know anything. And CJ doesn't even blink when he does that. Like it's not his normal behavior at all when you think about it.
There's been so many times playing through the earlier chapters with my wife, and she is like, "This doesn't make any sense."
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
Yeah.
well, and she goes, "Shut up.
Yeah.
Don't spoil anything.
It's like,
I'm
"It
just
will."
saying this doesn't make sense."
So you play it the second time.
Right. So different when you play through again after all these revelations. CJ, again, this is going to be really confusing for us, by the way. Like, audience, I apologize in advance. The fact that CJ is using the name Jacob now is going to make things very confusing when we start talking theory. So, forgive us if things get a bit confused.
Well, we can just, for the time being, until we get some more, like until the chapters go on and we get some settling into who's going to be called what, we can just refer to CJ as CJ, and we'll refer to Jacob, the kid version, as Jacob, just until we can like solidify who's what and who's going to continue to be what, because we don't know if Jacob's fuck, I just did it. We don't know if CJ's going to
remain as Jacob,
remain as Jacob.
Or he's going to go back to CJ but different this time, or what? Like, I personally would not be shocked to see if he goes back to CJ, but not as Chad Johnson,
oh yeah, no, I don't think.
But as Cameron Jacob.
I mean, we know that's not going to happen, especially after the whole Misaki's intro to the Crow arc, or to the beginning of this last arc, which was Chad Thundercock died.
Right.
I think now,
and
of course,
also,
I
you
think
could
that
go, this
could
is
be
going to
referencing
be
Skydad,
another son of a bitch.
but I think that was really more about CJ's name.
You can go back to them talking about CJ's name and how even on the register at school and on his official documentation, he's not listed as Chad Johnson. He's just listed as CJ. So that means not even on his passport or anything like that, he's listed as Chad Thundercock.
Aguri, the first time we meet her, refers to him as Raicho.
Yeah,
Son.
by his last name.
Yes.
In Japanese, yeah.
And that's the only time I can think of that people aren't calling him CJ other than Vicky calling him Chad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And here we see Mikan getting here.
After
it's interesting they let her go, though. Like, it is genuinely interesting to me that the goddesses let Mikan go, and they didn't try to follow her either. I don't know whether that was just because they dismissed her or what.
Think I would agree with the goddesses being. Well, I mean, they went. Did they get dropped off at the graveyard, or did Mikan stop the car and fucking ditch them? I can't remember.
Well, she took the keys. Leia took the keys.
Leah demanded the keys.
Okay, so they probably parked the car. So,
that means that they specifically
like
they took the keys.
That their arrogance was like, we don't fucking need her. That's why I like to
on the phone with Matoy, she specifically says, like, she doesn't say can't talk, but she says evading. Like when Matoy asks what's going on, just after the whole goddesses take over. So my guess is she was actually being very ninja.
She was channeling
doing everything to avoid
just giving them what they wanted and then just left, depending on the I mean, we see how angry Leia is at the start of this chapter, you know, screaming for Crow. So my guess would be that they were so focused on getting to CJ that she took the keys and just ignored Mikan, which is incredibly lucky when you think about it.
It's right here, actually, where she says that she heard them talking, setting aside their differences,
which is just again mind-blowing.
Which is crazy. That apparently it's happening a second time for some fucking reason.
Yeah, it's happened before,
but they don't seem to remember it. Again, we come up against the fact that the goddesses don't seem to remember Cameron and everything that went with that, which doesn't make any sense in Kione's case, because Kione specifically invokes what happened with the storm. She was there. Like, she mentions that she saved the world.
It is very weird. because
there is an element of play here that we are not grasping.
yeah, well, especially because at that time that Cameron and Jacob die, the people that should have been the shards for both of them shouldn't. I mean, they're not around. I mean, they're not. I mean, it's very weird. And then they don't remember anything, and then they have no idea. But and we've talked about this. They have no idea how CJ's around. It's really fucking weird. They just seem to not be aware.
Yeah, it's like either the knowledge has been deliberately removed, or it's been quarantined.
I mean, again,
or potentially it's not happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet, possibly. Also,
For them.
Yeah. It really could just be Jacob shenanigans, is really where
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
Jacob
leaning
may have found a
towards.
way to make them forget. Like, we can't underestimate, OG knew the goddesses better than anyone. If anyone's going to have the ability to manipulate their
Maybe
recollections...
they just don't remember. Hold on. There is, like, a good possibility that, like, because there's an infinite amount of universes, worlds, whatever you want to call them, where the shards exist, and then they kill another one, the world goes on and on and on. I mean, what if the goddesses legitimately killed Jacob and Cameron, and then just was like, okay, cool, so this world's done for, and then also, by the way, every world looks the same, they're just not aware of, like, oh yeah, this is the same one that we killed another shard, huh? Oh well, that's weird. Why would there be another one?
That's a good theory, actually. I quite like that.
Yeah, although, I mean, I don't
know.
you think that they
If
would
your scope is
recognize
so
the world?
grand, how often do you pay attention to the worlds that look exactly the same as the other one that you kill, another one of your beloved? Like, it just, to me, that would make way more sense.
Yeah,
Again,
but surely they would recognize the same world, and don't forget that their ability to access a world is a
Look.
goes on and gone.
yeah. Look, I agree.
Plato
I
maybe if
do agree. Like,
maybe
it seems weird if that would be the case, but I can't explain it without going, by the way, it's Jacob or some other third entity fucking up their memories.
I mean, it could be Hayato. Like, one of the theories myself and Techno have battered around for what the ritual that Hayato delayed the arrival of the goddesses, right? Everyone mentions that he delayed their arrival.
Wait a second. I mentioned earlier that Carpo explains that Tsukiko was made with bits that he stole from the goddesses. What if that's part of what was stolen?
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
what if the
could be
pieces of the
missing-
goddesses? What if the pieces of the goddesses that were present in the world that did those things to Cameron and Jacob are the
Were
pieces
what
that were
made-
stolen and made? Oh, that's good.
Yeah, because we know that
I
missing
like that.
pieces of yourself makes it so you don't remember everything. We know that with Crow.
Right.
So, yeah, that's definitely
Right.
possible. Especially if it's
That-
a little
that
thing
fits.
like killing somebody on this world. It's like little itty bitty things that you wouldn't miss, right? It's like you kill
And
so
that
many
makes even
of your
more
shards.
sense. That makes even more sense of Hayato's statements that he based Tsukiko's creation on CJ's creation by the goddesses as a false entity that is imposed on reality.
That resonates correctly to me. That tastes right for this story.
I mean, I think that's a really strong theory that fits. So, I mean, it
Yeah, 'cause
also
does the
explains
storm
just why
happen-
the goddesses hate him so much.
Because the storm happens before or after Cameron and Jacob die. I can't remember.
Before.
Technically, the storm happens before Cameron's even born by a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Cameron gets dragged back there by the process. So my guess is that
time
if we try to
Yeah.
put this in a timeline for ourselves, my guess is that Hayato learns about the goddesses what's potentially going to happen, and then he uses a ritual to try and delay. He uses rituals to delay them.
Yeah,
right?
trying to
But
delay.
But that did so that what that does is that creates like a disconnect where Cameron is pushed into the future. His birth is not in line with the shards that we know from Kamigawa, the ones that he should have been with.
Yeah, the one where
Which is
it
why
should
he
have been
keeps
the,
seeing
the parents.
He keeps seeing those shards, and he keeps thinking, and so that's why he keeps hallucinating those shards, because he mentions he sees them all the time when he has his dreams and visions. He sees these people, and it's Hector and Rosa, who are both
and then
also
he sees,
shards.
Yeah.
And
He sees
then
the
he
moms.
sees the moms. He sees Kay as well, the grand mom. But Kay's a little bit out of line with this, but not super. Like she's not super. Like
Well, wasn't
super
she? She
generationally
was
away from it.
She was supposed to be the wasn't she supposed to be the Hebe shard?
Yeah, she could well have been.
Yeah. So yeah.
So that fits. And then so Cameron gets disjointed. So the goddesses go looking for him at
God,
that point, which is where the storm happens, right? Which is but Hayato does something during the storm to push them back. I wonder if the storm, Hayato, what he does is he steals. That's where he steals the pieces of the goddesses.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, that's probably what happened. Because
so he steals those
if he's
pieces
not trying to
make
kill the shard that doesn't exist at when the storm exists, that's supposed to be Cameron, then all he can do is try to remove the shards that do exist, which that being the 4 goddesses.
Yeah.
And then he does it, and then they're like, hey, psych, guess what? We're going to just come back anyway, because when the CJ shard appears, then that's when we really show up.
And he's enough like... Well, don't forget that CJ, we theorize CJ is made from Cameron and Jacob, or at least, at the very least, Jacob. And there's a strong possibility that Jacob and CJ share a soul to some degree. Or at least a connection intimate enough where it amounts to the same thing. Mm-hmm. So they would still say, I mean, Hayato, I think, even invokes it. The goddesses still sense the presence of an OG shard, so of course they're still going to be drawn to the world.
Yeah, because them being there isn't a one-time thing. It's like, as long as it exists, it's going to continue.
Well, I mean, if the basic idea is that they are drawn to every OG shard, regardless of where that shard is, then it makes sense that they would just keep coming back. And it makes sense with this theory that we've got, that they don't remember the previous guy because those pieces of them have been taken away and turned into Sakiko.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, it all fits. Well done, guys.
We solved it. Congratulations.
Well, no,
we did.
We've solved one mystery.
My favorite thing about Oot is like getting a timeline of what's supposed to happen, but instead somebody went through and two separate forces fucking changed everything, and we don't know what the fuck original looked like, and we're just like, this is what was supposed to happen, right?
I mean, Omen
fucking
and myself have had Omen and myself have had conversations about how doing a timeline for Oot and how complicated that would be. Like,
oh yeah, no.
Because it's so many people's subjective time experience of
on top of that,
past events.
And then if we factor on top of that how we would have to explain.
It depends on if you're doing a factual timeline or a like story progression timeline. Because if you do a factual timeline, that's way easier. Because then we wouldn't do
a narrative. A narrative timeline would be nigh impossible because you'd be jumping around everywhere.
So by the way, she thought this was happening at the same time, which was not the fucking case. And then he dies. No.
Yeah, so what you'd have to do is you'd have to do it year by year and then say what happens at each given point in the timeline year by year.
The specifics of time in this game elude me.
I mean, there are rules to the time travel which make it work, and they've stayed consistent. But yeah, it's complicated.
No. I'm not complaining about the time travel thing. It's a device that's used well because it's within its own confines. It doesn't break free. It's fine.
Yeah, it's not a panacea connection, but yes.
And then
Matoi mentioning that she sees through Sakiko's eyes. Matoi really just iterates for the audience. She does a bit of exposition for people who are confused by 5051, which
people
is
that don't watch the Oot Cast.
People who don't watch the Oot Cast. Not that we care about those people, but I guess Anon does.
Anyway, Ray's saying the quiet part out loud.
No, I don't care. I'll do it. I don't care.
Well, look whose fault it is again.
Yes, again. Although, sort of. Well, Hayato, I think...
A mild correction here in just a couple frames.
Yeah, I mean, Crow didn't cause the disjuncture, the breaking, his falling apart. She reacted to it. She didn't cause it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The how, what, and why most... Yeah, thank you, Matoi, for iterating on our exact problem.
Yeah, I mean, we're 52... we're halfway through Oot here. This is the part, where... I know we're 52 chapters in,
numerically halfway through.
We're halfway through here, and this is the part that we're starting off at we have no idea what the fuck's still going on. Is insane to me. It's really fun. I like it. We have all the
bits. We have so much information, don't get me wrong. It's not like we're lacking it. It's just, there are so many ways they could fit together.
And then this is Jamie calling out that
iterating, like we said earlier,
thing.
how she
Yeah.
It's trying to read. Yeah, there's so much. Like, it's an overload of information more than it is blurry. And then Sarah actually speaking as Crow here.
Yeah.
Such a heavy thing. And Kieran doing the same. Speaking together.
I don't
in
want to
eerie
scare you.
chorus.
Speaks at the exact same time. I just
It's
fucking
probably
love
in
this.
the same tone as well.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of happy that Kieran's handling this as well as she is. Like,
Yeah.
she really went through the
I feel
ringer
like-
in 50-51,
Yeah.
and she's... I mean, obviously, there's a little bit of bravado going on. She's probably a bit of a mess inside still, but she has turned a corner, is what my point is. Like, she's turned a corner, and she at least knows now what she is and how it's going to be.
She's
more or
collected
less.
herself, as you know.
Yeah,
as
literally.
As funny as that is to say.
Yeah, God. Stop being a fuck. It's good to see Kieran is still Kieran, though.
I was about to say, love that line because it's still Kieran. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
I have all this knowledge now from
For those who
the
were-
rest of
for those
myself.
who were
but
worried.
also,
Yeah, for those who were worried, Kieran is still Kieran. Fear not. So you're Crow, huh? Yeah, I'm Crow. The part of her that didn't become Sarah. Anyway, so this is what another section we're going to be talking about a lot.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Is-
it was pretty obvious. It was set up. It was set
Yeah,
up
but
pretty
it's nice to
clearly,
have
but-
confirmation, isn't it? Like, so Kieran here is specifically saying that she is Crow. She's the part of Crow that stayed Crow when the other part went on to become Sarah by attaching itself to OG when OG died.
This
It's
is
the part
also
that went
what,
with him. That
This
red
is
crow
also-
you knew was my pain and self-hatred made manifest. You knew.
one hell of a
Past
tulpa.
tense. What hell? Knew past tense. After Hayato told CJ who he really is, she tried to sacrifice herself to awaken his true power, which is the events of 50-51 where...
And
she
I
was-
think that's actually very in line with the Crow that we've known for a long time. It's like
Yes.
CJ is going to commit suicide because of Hayato's plan. I would rather die and
Yeah.
blow up the planet if it
For a
means
yeah.
saving
Which,
CJ.
again, really
Which
just
Sarah...
like,
and it
if
was
you-
Sarah's plan. It was Sarah's plan.
Yeah.
It wasn't Crow's plan. It was Sarah's plan.
I find that infinitely more funny because if you had told me that exact same sentence and told me to guess which goddess was saying that, I would have not been able to
Right.
tell you because that was the
Right.
exact same type of like language of like, I would rather fucking die than let you have him fucking destroy the world. Like,
Yeah, press the
yeah.
reset button.
right.
Maybe it would have worked, maybe it wouldn't. But with all that power, at least all at once, Earth herself could have been destroyed, so she had to be stopped.
Like
Kieran,
imagine every CJ shard across all of the worlds just immediately accumulating in CJ. If that's
Yeah.
Kieran, I think, is actually taking a real step here. She's taking full responsibility for what happened, when really it's not her full responsibility per se. Like, but she's throwing herself in front of the bus to save Sarah, and in a sense to save Crow herself from censure. But Kieran's throwing herself in front of the bus here, really interestingly, to take the blame for everything that's just happened.
but somebody isn't going to let that stand.
Yeah, I am Kryogan, I always have been. And Jamie actually makes a fair point. People might think she's being a bit unfair, but no, like, she's making a very fair point here.
And she's not doing it in like,
An aggressive,
Stu-
nasty way.
yeah.
These are earnest questions. She's just being direct.
Yeah.
I need more than a fucking apology if this is going to work. And then Sarah steps in to defuse things and be like, actually, it's not Kieran's fault. But Kieran absolutely taking responsibility. You don't have to speed up, by the way, Techno. Like, this chapter is short enough that you don't need to speed up just because we stopped for a while. But yeah, Sarah laying out if he lost control of the world would have ended regardless. So she makes a very good point here. Like, Sarah's plan is reasonable in light of the fact that the world likely would have ended anyway.
Right. Which
Because
is, you know, I mean, that's
because
not-
bear in mind, it took Kay's sacrifice and death to stabilize the power enough to stop it from happening, which isn't something that Crow or Sarah could have made happen on their own.
I agreed with Crow myself. that only one
one
option remained.
remained.
And I think it's very fascinating that the Crow Gestalt is 3,
Yeah,
which is very important because there's no ties in a 3-way vote.
exactly.
Well, yeah, that's fair. Do we count Derry? I'm not trying to make an
No,
argument
Derry is a separate entity. She's in it and as part into it, but it's like a very junior partner. Like they don't get.
Okay.
She doesn't seem to
It's
have any
like
decision.
it's not a full though. Okay, I'm fine with that. I wasn't
Yeah.
trying to make an argument. I was just like,
Yeah, no,
we
that's fair.
remember
That's a
that
valid
Sarah
question.
did split off a part of herself earlier.
Well,
And
no. So Derry is the spirit of the flower that she found floating in the ocean that she imbued with some of her power and brought into herself to act as a sister. Really, like the subtext there is that she was missing her face sister so
I'm
much.
fine with that. I'm fine.
She
with that.
wanted to create. She basically created a surrogate.
I mentioned her because I
it's-
know that we're gonna get her next
Yeah.
chapter. So
we will get her next chapter as seen in the work in progress stuff. So yeah, so that's how I read what Diary is. She's kind of like a surrogate sister creation thing of Sarah, because Sarah, as we saw clearly throughout the story, was very much missing her Fae sisters, and the freshness of the wounds of everything that she experienced going as she went through was still very present. Yeah, Sarah explaining why she did what she did and how she, and all that stuff.
Last way to save him.
Yeah, Kieran was the only reason we couldn't go. And it's really interesting that Kieran prevented it, but she only managed to change things by fully embracing her role in the triad. Like they now form basically a trinity.
Yes. It's
Sarah
very
is
one chasing the other.
Yeah, Sarah is the apex of the ideal form that Crow always wished for it to be. The Crow we know is Crow at her lowest and worst, her most damaged and deranged. And Kieran is Crow. She's the Crow that is probably, in a sense, the closest to the old Crow.
Accepted, yeah.
Yeah. Although she just doesn't have her memories of being that Crow, which she mentions in this monologue discussion right here, sorry. Those memories are starting to come back, so it's going to be really interesting to see how she develops going forward.
although, and we are assuming that she's still assuming that like all the other goddesses, Hebe probably, like the other 3, might still have the last piece of Crow if we're missing any at this point.
If we're
Which
missing,
seems to be a thing. Like it would make sense if it would be weird if 3 of them
she has.
didn't.
I would presume that the pieces the goddesses hold are pieces of their own bond with Crow, because that's how the longer a bonded group is together, the more parts of themselves they merge, right? So my guess is.
Well,
and
I'm fine with saying that. The goddesses said they found those pieces, but I'm fine with either explanation.
Found them in themselves would be my guess.
They have consistently, all of them, blamed Crow for the shattering, if you will.
Yeah.
And if Crow had to do something that utilized their bond to bring that about,
sense.
it would make sense if they all had
Oh
a
yeah,
part
no,
of
for
her.
sure. I
Yeah,
mean,
my theory is that OG triggered it. OG asked her to do it.
yeah,
But odds are
Exactly.
that Crow did so. But from the outside, they probably wouldn't want to accept that OG would shatter the bonds like that.
Precisely.
Yeah, well, I'm still. It's either that, or for me, it's OG was going to sacrifice himself in a way that was going to not break the bonds in the sense that it did happen, because at least in the prologue, for me, I agree with the theory that Rayze brought up. It's more likely that, but it could be a slight variation where the original thought was OG was going to sacrifice himself in a way that it wasn't going to destroy the bonds and cause everybody to form together.
Yeah.
Only cause him to disappear, right?
he
And
would
of
only
course,
put the loss
Crow
of
was
his own
like,
bond.
at the end, we see that
I couldn't do it.
Yeah, she was like, "No, I'm not gonna fucking let you go. Are you serious?" Like, she was ready
but then
to let whatever happen,
There's
and
a lot
then
there's a lot that refutes that though. Like there's a lot that refutes that, because Crow herself says that we could have had him to ourselves for an eternity if I hadn't done it. So I think that I'm fairly certain in my belief that Crow, probably at out of love for OG and out of love for the others, because don't forget
And
she was just as
and
close to them
trust
in
in
the past.
him, trust in his call
Yeah,
that this was the right move.
that was the right move. Because I really feel it's very logical and a very solid guess that the four goddesses were quotation marks dying by merging into OG as they bonded closer and closer and closer. And it fits that OG wouldn't want that to happen, and that by having that happen, that process, the goddesses probably weren't even aware of it. So, because when you merge into someone, as we've seen other times, you don't seem to be consciously aware necessarily that you're doing it. So, CJ kind of echoing that in a sense with how I kind of wonder how much of that is echoed in CJ's determination to sacrifice himself as he gains more autonomy. Because one of the key things of his growing autonomy through the story is that he becomes far more willing to not just throw himself into danger, but to put others out of danger as he does so. And his regret and angst over them being in danger because of him in the first place far more pronounced. But yes, Jamie asking a very valid question, because she doesn't know what we know as observers. How long has Sarah known from the start that she's Crow? Yes, she is Crow's complete opposite, because as we said, in terms of the triumvirate,
And a magnet has to have two sides.
Exactly.
It's never not.
You fought Crow, yeah. Man, it just shows you how damaged these entities are, that they could fight each other and all this stuff without even knowing. But this little sequence also is even more proof to me that Misaki and Kieran are separate entities.
Absolutely. Kieran is aware of something Misaki is not.
So, which kind of really puts another nail in the coffin with the idea that Kieran is a creation of Misaki and Crow both. Because now we know that Crow is the creation. Bizarrely enough.
It seems more like Crow pushed Misaki out to inhabit the body.
Yeah.
And then just because of the attachment.
Yeah, and then when she left, Kieran Crow was left behind, or chose to stay behind, or she externalized, probably because as a result of what she saw as her failure in the incident of Crow's first arc in chapters I think it's 10 through 15. That failure was probably enough to push her into being overwhelmed by her shame and grief and anger and hatred and self-loathing, which is why it fully externalized into the entity that we see in Jamie's arc.
And seeing Sarah for the first time with CJ.
Quite likely on an unconscious level, yeah. Because she didn't have memories of Sarah at that point or being like that. She forgot her own form. But on an unconscious level, I could absolutely see that contributing. But Jamie just establishing the rules now. So you're the same person? Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of fucked, isn't it? Yes, Kieran, it is. So yeah, Kieran invoking specifically what Crow says to Sarah in 44, that she's the left and the right. And that Crow herself, that we know, is the externalized part that doesn't really fit.
Copied me, took after he instead.
Yeah.
So Misaki is probably closest to what he looks like.
Yeah, especially after the trailer. Yeah, especially after.
Yeah, I agree with that. That fits well. Which really makes it interesting as to how Ash fits into all this. And I'm looking forward to when the Ash Misaki get a combo comes into being. Because come on, they got a combo at some point.
Envy, admiration, and utility.
Because again, Hebe's the most powerful goddess, right? So that fits.
If you were gonna basically jack one of the bloodlines for one of the goddesses,
why not go for the strongest?
Most sense.
Yeah, why not go for the strongest?
And the one that hasn't been around at all anywhere else, only showed up
here. And the one that was probably from the outside perspective to someone like Crow, the closest emotionally to OG. If we think of it in these terms of also took care of him spiritually. You know, his spiritual state of being. Keone took care of his carnal side, his urges, the desires of the flesh. And then Carpo is his temporal power, right? She's his counterpart in temporal power and all that sort of stuff, and governance, and his role as a god. And then that leaves Hebe to take care of his heart.
I do find it interesting that they call it here, because we knew this was the case, but Crow had no idea that Sarah existed, and the only reason she's here is because of her.
Which again invokes.
It's so funny
Rebecca
that
is Sarah.
Yeah, well, it's just hilarious that out of interesting. Out of all the worlds you could have decided to try, to make your plan again, Crow. It happened. It just happened to be the world where
with Sarah in it.
Yeah, with Sarah in it. It's like,
well, that's where she was drawn, right? By Rebecca's cry of grief is what drew her to the world in the first place. But she didn't arrive at that point in time.
Yes,
Crow arrived further up the timeline. Yeah. Because it's probably not a specific thing, or she was possibly drawn to the start point of Rebecca's life.
Could be
something like that. Sarah filling in the gap, because they now feel it. Sarah can read now because they're much more together now. But it's enough to realize just how damaged and broken Crow's memories are.
Yeah, she basically says, yeah, I got all of it. It's just there's a lot of stuff here that is not accurate.
And it's just holes in it, or just things that are born of delusion and pain. Like, it's worth mentioning that in psychology, it's a very common thing for people with trauma to essentially, over time, change their memories as a result of the emotional weight of said trauma. So what they remember isn't necessarily what happened,
or if you remember anything at all,
or even they will even project. And victims of abuse will often project their abuser onto people they encounter in their lives, and then in their minds they will emotionally create scenarios and actions that never occurred on that person's behalf to rationalize and prove that projection to themselves. It's quite common with people who've been subject to that, or often goes with things like schizophrenia and other delusions and stuff like that. But anyway, I digress. Sarah and Crow much closer now in a lot of ways than they have been in the past, and Sarah is not too happy about it.
Trying to protect Kieran from...
Yeah, I have just been blocking my own feelings and emotions, but hers as well. So, in a sense, Kieran is almost Crow's chance to have a clean slate.
Yeah, start again. Without the
emotion, like the baggage of all those memories.
Externalized.
But she's going to have... But I think that's where we have left to go. Like, we've established the parameters now of the Crow being, but we haven't really fully developed their dynamics between themselves. Obviously, Sarah and Kieran are very close, and that's not really going to be... They're just going to figure that out fairly harmoniously. But Crow herself now is a really big question mark as to where she's going to fit into the dynamics going forward. I mean, she thought she was the core of the Crow being, but she's not.
Yeah.
Kieran is. And that's going to be a huge paradigm shift in her perspective. Especially if Kieran is now the one who really controls all that power, which certainly seems to be the case as 51 sets up. Although Crow herself, the Crow we know, she's the one who has all the knowledge of the techniques and how to use it. Because obviously this Kieran doesn't. So is Kieran going to be willing to be taught by Crow?
I think so. I think that's the direction that it's going in. Or utilizing her.
Yeah, I think that may be the path to Crow's redemption. Because it's worth noting that CJ in the past has said, Kieran is his main concern with regards to Crow and keeping them, so that Kieran doesn't suffer anymore. And if Kieran has reached a place where she can deal with Crow and even perhaps come to understand her and, I dare say, forgive, That's going to be a very different
Oh,
turn.
don't
of
let
events.
don't let Seven hear you say that.
Or ultimately, yeah. Sorry, boys, but it's positive.
Oh wait,
possibility.
Ultima too? Really?
Ultima's a big crow. He's a bigger crow hater than
Who would have
Seven these
Who would have
days.
fucking thought? Who would have fucking
dude.
thought?
But it's nice to see Sarah and Kieran here having a real moment of solidarity.
I don't get it.
Poor Jamie. I don't really get it, but it's okay.
I mean, I think she trusts them enough that she's like, okay, we'll call
Jamie,
it here.
you can't do that because this is what happened last time. You just decided to move on and not understand it, and then all of a sudden,
Well, I think in this particular situation, that's fair, considering they've got two.
No.
I
I do agree.
Yeah.
I just think it's really funny how like the beginning of this conversation was, I have no idea. We just ignored it because that's who he was, and then now at the end, like, okay, well, I don't really understand how you two work, but we're just going to go ahead and move on.
Fair enough. Yeah. As ridiculous as it sounds, even them being in this state, they did come out of it better, which is again something we all said was like,
I mean,
Jamie and Kieran are going to be the ones to
guess.
carry the can going forward.
How many more parents do we have to kill?
Grandparents, parents. But the full set now, as we see work in progress, which just again proves that I was right.
Nobody was arguing with you.
Just let me have this, okay?
You're right nearly all the time. Why do you need this to be right? Nobody was arguing with you about this.
It's the only way I can feel validated.
Don't you see what I have to deal with, Omen?
It's a joke.
I deal with him all the time too.
You can bond over your mutual suffering later. But it's nice to see. It's interesting to see Kieran reacting very similarly to Sarah here. So there's more of their similarity overlaps, where they both want to go to it, but know that he isn't. Just thinking of a piano in a skyscraper. Yeah. And Jamie gets it because Jamie's the only one who could reach out to him in this situation without it.
Now hire billions
Try
and
a
billions.
$5 menu.
I love the billions and billions thing. Carl Sagan reference.
July 2010.
That's when it was built.
Crazy ass long time.
Imagine having a McDonald's that's been there for 60, 70 years.
I think it'll happen.
I like this little monologue. I get that. Sometimes you have to leave me behind. I'll take one for the team. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's been hours. No one is texting me.
Champagne and caviar.
Not that she likes champagne. She says, her face.
I don't even like caviar anymore.
That's true, Ashley. I would rather have McDonald's than champagne and caviar. I agree.
Ashley, the most relatable person in the entire fucking cast.
In some respects, yeah.
Like the most normal modern person of all time when it comes to the cast.
She's got the healthiest family dynamic. She does well at school. She's popular. She's well liked.
Most healthy
in
family dynamic whenever Kieran was beating her, but sure.
I mean, compared to the others.
With the coloration of the city lights in the background.
Yeah, being teal.
It's both blue and green. Like when it zooms out a couple times, we see some are blue or some are green. We do know that Ashley is actually right there.
Yeah, she is right there.
Yep.
Not to mention the full fluctuation of colors are all the colors of the entities associated with OG/DJ. Yes, there's amber in there, there's yellow in there, we see purple.
White
for Sakiko.
Yep.
And the symbolic raiment, so symbolic right there.
Yep.
That hurts.
Because those are the things given to him by Skydad. It's time to put away childish things, kind of motif there.
This bothered me so much, and I'm still not 100% comfortable with it. With seeing
Jacob, CJ now using Jacob as his title, his name in the thing.
We'll see. Let's see how it goes.
We'll see if it sticks. We will see if it sticks.
I do become more comfortable with it throughout this scene with Jamie, using it in a soft way to address him. But when that first hit, I was like, hold the fucking phone. Stop right there. No, not okay.
I do wonder.
But
It is jarring.
Hmm.
What? Elucidate.
I don't know. Well, with what he was saying about, I don't know, it just made me think about like how are we gonna get to this point of like, are we even gonna see like Vic, Leah, Teresa like during this fucking Hebe arc? Because I don't know if we are. It really seems
It's
like
hard to say. Isn't
like
it?
to me it really seems like, because we know how the rest of the chapters are going to be set up, that maybe
they take on an antagonistic role.
well, maybe it's more like they have to go after them instead, like after the Hebe arc gets wrapped up, because it's going to be a longer arc because she's not going to get a part 2. It's gonna
Right.
be Hebe and Ashley, then we go back to
Yes.
Teresa, then we go to Carpo, and then we go to Keon.
Yeah,
I'm
and then the last one
wondering.
is
I'm
Sukiko
genuinely wondering if we're not gonna see them until. Like, I feel like that's a crazy thing to say. Like, hey, by the way, we're not gonna see these
I
characters
don't
until
think
their
we will.
arc.
I
but-
don't think so. I think we'll get them back. I think they're too important.
I
to be lost
I
completely.
agree, but it feels like it's kind of setting them up with them being like scattered like this. It's very weird.
When I first played this chapter, I had this like impression, and it was probably it's almost certainly a false impression, but it was this hope that like, oh, as soon as Ashley like really connects back, we're going to do something that gives us Teresa, Leah, and Vicky back, like out of the control of the goddess. When I played through this again last night, I was thinking, that's not right. They may be antagonistic forces completely inhabited by the goddesses for a good long while,
Yeah.
and
yeah,
recovering them
right. That's what it
is
feels
the
like.
drive.
That's what it
of-
feels like, especially considering it's a chapter specifically about the goddesses, not just the characters again.
And it's also that Teresa's disappeared.
Yeah,
She's-
that,
we don't
that's
see
what
her.
I mean. Like,
She's not. If we were going to get them back soon, then logically you would think that Teresa would be with the other two.
Mhm.
Especially as they don't seem to see her
And
also as much of a threat, so they wouldn't be bothered.
just said in this chapter that she's gonna go and follow whatever the path led to the beginning.
So
Like,
my
I don't think
guess
that's
would
some
be-
symbolic shit. I
Yeah.
think she's literally gonna go figure it out.
She might be going
either
to speak to Hebe
spiritually
herself.
or
She may end up because she wants.
That's
If she
what I
wants,
think
she
it
may
is.
go speak to Hebe herself, which in turn is what allows the rest of them to go speak to Hebe. Is my
Mhm.
guess.
That
I mean, there's a
would be
number of
my
ways this could go. It could go in the sense that we get Leia and Vic back in the next couple of chapters. That may be the case, and then they have to go chase down Teresa to get Orxo, and that will take the whole arc.
yeah.
That doesn't feel right to me anymore.
I don't know.
That's what I thought it was going to be. But
It's hard to say.
replaying
We
it-
just
I
don't
don't know.
know.
Well,
Yeah.
no,
We
it's
just
true.
don't know.
We don't know, but I do feel like Omen. Like, I do like what Omen's saying, because I was thinking that too, and I thought, well, there's no way we're gonna have like several chapters not seeing the whole cast. I'm like, well, that's definitely possible. Like,
I
I'm
mean,
seriously
we're gonna be
thinking.
spending-
I'm seriously thinking, at least for Hebe's arc, we're not going to see Teresa
We're going to
or
be spending
Leah
a lot more
or
time.
Vic.
We're going to be spending a lot more time in the other side going forward. That's one thing I have been told. So
But yeah, it would make
Can't
sense.
we
It-
see
it-
some of that
there's
stuff
nothing
from
like
the-
we've made it to America. There's nothing else physically in the world that we're missing. Like, we're at the origin point for CJ.
well, that's
here.
why that bit at the beginning was really interesting to me, where we see Shiori and Haruki say we have to go. Like, they seem to know
Yes.
where they're going, that they have a purpose in going there. And bear in mind that they experienced everything Kay did. They saw everything Kay did. So my guess is they want to go and help. And
I
they're probably
think they need to boost Ashley. I think that
Yes, I think-
when
Yeah.
they get
So-
there,
But if you think about it, like if we think about it in terms of them spending a lot of time on the other side, by the time they fly to America to find them, that may be by the end of this arc.
I
Which would
agree.
be just the right time for Ashley to get a power boost, especially with Misaki in the mix as well.
oh, I had the strings, but now I'm
I'm
free.
free.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Strings on
But
me.
Jamie, very gentle. Jamie actually handles CJ really well here. I just want to take a moment to compliment how well Jamie handles CJ's situation. She doesn't criticize him. She just is like, you're drinking a lot. Don't do that, in a very gentle, indirect way.
The
And then
coloration.
immediately responds to his despair. I mean, I don't know. Just quick aside. Ash is the perfect solution to CJ's current setup. Can you
Yes.
think of anyone in more need of optimism and energy and
I
energetic
know it's
support than
really.
CJ
I
right
mean, and
now?
who shows up at the fucking inn?
I know who's on the end.
Yep.
But Jamie really does a great job with CJ here, and it really fits their relationship as well. Like in the beginning, it was CJ being the one who was holding Jamie up, and now it's reciprocal, going back the other direction.
When that colored light flashes and we see the neon, teal, and what color did we decide to call the reddish purple?
Oh, amaranthine.
Yes. We get that again here in a couple of frames.
Yeah,
I
which
think
are the
during
colors you
fact.
get when you combine the goddess colors and stuff together in pairs.
It's interesting that they show up like to highlight CJ's features.
Yes. But this is Jacob really, well, CJ struggling hard with his part. Like, I mean, absolutely understandably. This is not something you get over. Like,
There it is again.
there it is. Casting shadows on his face. And
Yep.
it shows how he is, haunted by it. And he's right. This is what makes it so hard to refute. Which is why Jamie doesn't refute that he was in the past a puppet. Like, she doesn't say, no, you were always yourself. Because, again, that's manifestly not true. You can't just dismiss someone's trauma like that. This whole sequence,
Color
sex scene, blah, blah,
flashes.
blah. This whole sex scene is really important for plot and emotion reasons because it is an absolute affirmation.
I watch it for the plot.
I
swear
do
to God,
watch
guys, we watch it for the plot, and YouTube doesn't care, so it's still getting blurred.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. It is what it is. Although, to be fair, you don't have to blur anything so far. It's just them
That's
kissing
what you
and
think.
sitting right now.
That's what you think. YouTube doesn't like any of this. Kissing?
Oh, well.
Gross.
Gross. Cooties. But yeah, it's this whole sequence is very much about Jacob / CJ taking a step forward as himself and making a choice for himself, which is exactly
Jamie
what he
does
needs to do.
such a good job here. Like, you have to do this, and I
Your
think
choice.
that's and I think it's actually very romantic for both
Very,
of them.
yeah.
That
and it's
she
because it's
says-
so earnest from Jamie. Like, Jamie is really putting herself out there. This is really against Jamie's previously quite passive behavior when it came to their relationship.
I love the light that her black and white bracelet catches so much.
But this whole sequence is very affirming.
The whole color theory of the way the lights work, the way
and don't forget that it's Jamie now superimposed on top of the green and the amaranthine.
Yeah.
The two colors. And then don't forget, those two colors are the combination of the other colors. And as we will shortly see, those two elements, we will see each of those reflected in Jamie as she speaks to and affirms CJ. And then everyone else getting the lustful echo. And then, but Jamie's like this in a strange, but it's interesting that the way CJ reacts echoes almost perfectly how he reacted to Jamie when he was in Lindsay's bubble.
Yes, the most beautiful woman.
Yeah, like his adoration, his emotional, just absolute dead. Like, wow, this is the most beautiful. Yeah, all that stuff. It absolutely perfectly echoes that. all this pain won't be for nothing. Again, she affirms his suffering without, so like, it's
And
just
there
so
it is.
clever. And here it is. Yeah, this is Tsukiko. This is her as Tsukiko speaking to you, speaking to him, you know, directly into the camera. Speaking
Now
as
it's
Kione, with Kione's color in the background,
and everything she says is
that
very
echoes
Kione.
directly what Kione himself has said in the past.
Yeah.
And then
Carpo.
I want to break up your face challenges. And then Orkso,
Create life with you.
yeah. And then
this one is so important. Here, she's so happy. She's so forward. She's so excited.
yeah, it's optimism,
hopeful.
it's hope. Yeah, that's the real thing. Hope, optimism, hope, joy, you know, a whimsical desire and embracing of the future
And then,
by embracing the present.
Yep. This is where we get the green ring flashing.
Which is likely when Ash uses her powers, as we'll see shortly. Because his phone is highlighted briefly back there as we go as well. So that's Ash using her powers, pulling on the string that connects them, basically.
I missed that the first time that he bit her hard enough to draw blood
on the shoulder. But it shows you how emotionally into it they are.
Yeah.
Like, that shows you how just incredibly...
And now
Mizui and all the girls feeling the recoil, yeah.
Mizui gets her first non-miserable
moment since, yeah, bless her. And then it's really seeing these two together, just feeling it. We might as well. But I did like Jamie's response earlier as well. It's like, we don't have to worry about the universe ending. I don't think I think she would have done it even if that was a risk anyway.
I think so too. How badly he needed
the purple there for a
emotional validation.
I mean, because it was never a guarantee anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
But this is a necessary step for them in so many respects. 24 to go.
Got some catching up to do.
Yeah,
we get cut.
So this is bear in mind this is after Tsukiko's trick in 49, so he probably doesn't need it that much for a while.
Actually, it's just disposable.
And this is how when she used this, and it's really interesting sound cue.
Yeah, this song in particular.
Yep, exactly.
That's part of CJ's theme, not his theme.
Yeah,
it's only played I think twice.
Yeah.
Right? It's each time Skydad shows up.
Yeah.
And I love this track. I listen to this shit at work.
Me too.
It's a good track.
So good.
But this is really interesting that we see there, like Ash using her heat powers properly, arguably for more than just a glimpse for the first time. And then the motif of the electricity. One of my favorite lines from 49 is when Hebe is talking to CJ and says, you know, the thunder in you. You were the thunder in your ears, and I was the lightning in your heart. And it's like, I really feel like that's an essential part of their dynamic.
Yep.
If Hebe represents the lightning and is the spark, and CJ/OG is the thunder, that's really interesting. And also, if you could read the messages here.
Yes.
I love the messages here. Actually starts up, and then the one before that is, I'll be that deep boy.
I forgot about that. But girlfriend is fucking.
And then the other ones are a little bit. Where the fuck are you? You need us.
What did that worthless fox do?
I mean, it's also really important to note we don't actually know why, what the goddesses want from CJ at this point, like the other two. We don't know what they want.
I mean, we can take an educated guess. I mean, they might
also like this is a subversion of how it normally goes, where no, they actually catch on pretty much right away. Oh shit!
Yep.
Oh, that's weird. A lot of stories like would just kind of dismiss it. What happened to never leaving? Well, at least he's in a better mood, which is fucking hilarious.
I was gonna say TJ made a joke, however tinged in bitterness it was, but.
You're not done yet, buddy.
It shows you how he's still down, like how his absolute fear kicks in the moment.
Yeah.
Like he's better. He's taken a step, but he is still a wreck.
There's a lot more steps that need to be taken.
He is still an absolute wreck right now.
We'll knock if it's one of us.
Like, I don't. Okay.
And then Ash
I feel like I'm
knocks,
nitpicking
which she
here.
does
I was
do.
gonna say,
It's
I feel like I'm
really
nitpicking
interesting.
here, but who doesn't knock? Anyway, I feel
I mean,
like I'm
when
nitpicking
when
I say
there
that.
is when these people are as intimate with
Carpo
each
and
other as they are,
Carpo and Keone would
Would
absolutely
not
not knock.
yeah, they would not.
Oh, to be fair, they probably would just break down the door, but then instantly you would know
Right.
anyway. So
Yeah, but even so, I think that's kind of the point, right? It's like it's a courtesy thing. It's a real, and I love the fact that they're just like, yes, our turn now.
It's time.
Yes, our turn. More. We want more.
stop your
Timmy's
horny.
like, no,
Enough.
part of it.
Cease.
Not now.
Bonk.
And yet, what is the key
I
to
do
this?
like that. I do like that it points out like Ash shouldn't fully recharge the battery. It
Well,
just
'cause
got
she didn't.
1%.
It was just enough to get her what she. This is the key thing, right? Just enough to get what she wants.
Yeah.
Her power isn't absolute. It's just really, really strong.
And she's not using all of it. Not by a long
But she doesn't
shot.
even know she's got it at this point.
Right.
I love that. I love that's a common thing though. We turned off all our phones, and his is just always had a fucking
I mean,
battery.
there's another really fucked up element at play here that I kind of want to mention with Ash's power. Ash is the vessel, right? She's an empty vessel.
Yep.
But now she has power. Where do we think she got the power from?
Okay.
Kay died.
Yeah.
So her
yeah.
grandmother died
Yeah.
to give her even the tiniest mote of power.
That's how much
Which
she had left.
lends
little bit.
credence to the idea of what it will take to get Ashley the rest of her power,
Yeah.
which is very concerning.
Yes.
Oh
Yes,
no,
I
we're
can
not
feel you out there,
fucking
Zod.
talking about this again.
I feel
I'm
you
not
out
gonna
there, Zod.
hear-
I'll see you in hell.
We're not talking about Masaki dying, okay? Fucking.
It's not just Mistaki. I
Yeah.
think it's also going to be Haruki and Shiori. I think
Maybe.
all three of them.
I
Or
don't
at least at
believe. I
risk.
don't believe it. I don't believe it.
It's gonna be spicy going forward.
I
But
don't.
Sarah
think...
Sarah makes a really good point here. I think
Misaki is
Sarah,
absolutely going to die.
Sarah,
No.
you can go back a line.
You
You go
guys
back a line. Go back one
fucking
line. Go one forward. That's a really important line. I think it's going to be really important in future arcs and chapters.
Hmm.
The affirmation that no, as messed up as the goddesses are, they aren't evil through and through. They
Boy.
are.
It's like I'm back in the lore channel already.
Yeah, right. Oh yeah, we've seen many times that conversation. Goddesses are evil. No, they're just really messed up. And Lindsay steps in. I really, really hope and look forward to Lindsay joining the polycule properly.
Yeah.
I think she'll be a really interesting character to add to the
It
dynamic.
wasn't me. How did you fuck it up this
I like
way?
you instantly blames Kieran. She doesn't blame Sarah, she blames Kieran because that's who she's fixated on. And then Lindsay,
Now,
yeah.
she-
Lindsay's really sharp. Like, she is genuinely really sharp.
She has been protecting them from the gaze of Keone.
I love our little
Carpo.
terrorist
And
joining
also,
the
which is no
also-
joke,
Right. But she probably hasn't been preventing Hebe because she hasn't needed to.
she
And
is,
so that's
her power also
why.
runs on PvP power.
And
So she can't
I
block it.
think that makes sense too. But I feel it was more like she wasn't bothering to because there was no need. And that's why Ashley was able to do what she did without interference from Lindsay. Cleaning up your messes.
Yeah, I get a feeling that they're always going to have a bit of a vitriolic.
Yeah.
This isn't
well,
something they're going to get over lightly.
Well, I mean, look, let's give Lindsay a little bit of credit here. It's not
She
like her hatred is
hospitalized her.
not. Yeah, it's not
Right.
like it's
She killed her.
unwarranted.
She actually died. Like,
That's
Lindsay,
right, yeah.
Lindsay should be dead. If Hayato hadn't stepped in to give her the shard, she would be dead. But that also means that Hayato's had Lindsay and Tetsuko in his back pocket for
having
years.
bamboozled all of you before.
I do like
Yeah.
Lindsay's
You are-
like she's a
None
good
of you
addition
are
to the dynamic.
subtle.
But I feel like she's going to be a really useful addition as well. Like they need someone who's also very grounded and practical.
Her abilities are very different from the rest of the cast. I do feel like the whole illusion, hiding from things, being able to,
and banishment. She can basically cast silence. Like that silence ability is no joke. Able to completely block goddess power, even latent connections, is no joke.
Yeah, I mean, fucking domain expansion, dude. Fucking
right.
Also, it's hilarious when you think about how she dresses in the real world compared to her outfit on the other side.
We haven't actually seen her have a proper moment with CJ yet, and she obviously cares about it because Jamie specifically invokes it just then. You care about it, don't you? She's like, yes, that's why
having the ability to float to a second-story window will make you care about somebody.
I do wonder exactly how her dynamic is going to play out with CJ going forward. It's going to be really interesting. I feel like he might be the only one that she completely is flustered by and can't maintain her cool.
I just want to give more credit to Ashley here because I find anything she says infinitely funnier because it's you've been right across the parking lot for hours. Why I oughta. And then immediately, oh, would you look who steps out of the fucking elevator?
And then she's right behind, and they're right behind her. It makes you wonder if they were following her, honestly. Yes, Carpo's theme kicks in.
And they still hate Tsukiko.
And then,
why are they working together? Even Kieran's like, bro, what?
Well, of course, because to them, Tsukiko is just Hayato's fucking monster. I mean, it's like this guy who's been fucking with our shit like more than Crow has at this point. Yeah, no wonder.
Yeah. And especially if they are latently sensing that she's a creation of their own body parts. It'd be like looking at someone who's made like a Frankenstein's monster out of copies, like clone parts of yourself. Mm-hmm. How fucked up would that be?
And then, of course, Carpo's like, of course, why would I be upset about Crow finally killing herself?
Yeah, but this is so interesting because this is almost completely different from what Leia says to Kieran in 51. Where Leia's like, Leia as Carpo, because her and Carpo
because this is definitely different. Yeah.
So this is what makes me wonder as to what part of did the shaking of the connection allow pieces of Carpo and Pione to come in from the outside?
That would be my guess.
Yeah, whatever the case, the Carpo Leia combination that we had at the beginning of 51, 52 is not the same that we're getting right now, very clearly, because that one allowed shit to happen.
And not only allowed shit, she enabled it.
I think that was Leia. I think that was more
but Carpo was there as well, because we see Leia standing on the balcony, and then Carpo appeared at the end as well.
It was definitely a glimpse into what, because, I mean, I will admit, out of every... I've talked about this with Rayze, but out of all the goddesses, Leia had the most resolution with hers. I am in full agreement, because I've said this before, Vic completely denied hers, and then Teresa just went completely along with hers, like two extremes.
Well, in a very passive way, like her,
very passive. Even though the Uxo intent isn't bad or anything like that, and out of all of them, obviously Uxo's more put together in some different ways than others. I still don't think that that's what's
needed.
Leia's
so strong-willed, right? Leia is so strong-willed, and yet she's reached a détente with Carpo. Which is, I think, like you said, really an important thing. Which is why, but then again, she has Leia's name. This isn't Carpo speaking. This is Leia. So it's just really interesting to see.
The marks underneath Carpo's eyes here, or Leia's eyes here, those look different than what they've been before.
They do look like they could just be shadows at play, or it could.
No. I'm talking about the line, the yellow lines.
Yeah, but I'm just saying there could be like some kind of spiritual shadowing effect. Is what I'm saying. And then we see this is full Kione
still
face, like
the same.
Yeah,
interesting.
But this is full Kione face, like her blue, glowing white eyes out of darkness is very much her motif. You've been a pathetic wretch for so long, but we keep finding. See, this is just standard rhetoric from
how you cling to your mortality,
which is really interesting. That's the one interesting line she drops.
Again.
Which means that Crow was mortal at some point. which is interesting.
Well, I mean, I would assume that it's referring to the parts of her, that being Sarah and Kieran, that do have physical bodies that are still, part human.
Yes.
Which I do think is going to be a bigger point later on in the story.
With like Rebecca and stuff, once we figure out more
just
what's
like the
going
whole
on
idea
there.
of like just being human matters.
Yeah.
Just,
But Kieran tries to play them really well. Like, she's like, "Why are you hiding behind a shell? Stand up. Show yourself. Why bother? You willingly became an ant for me to step."
You took a mortal body.
Yeah.
This is how easy it is to deal with.
And it's really interesting, but it's super interesting that Karpa can manifest her powers like this through Leia. And also, Anon showing off with the new animation technique. She's like, really, I did like that. It's mine and mine alone. All that he loves and used, but the lust contained in the tip of my littlest finger. So, is this more about possessing him? Like, it's really not clear what exactly they want.
Well, okay, so Karpa was pretty clear that she was pissed because finally they were going to kill Crow, and then the beginning was going to let of her dying was going to let CJ come into his full power, which would have ignited his star, right? Which is what she's been after the whole time.
She would have got, or at least would have been a step on the road. Like, she doesn't care about the rest of the world.
Yeah,
she just wants CJ.
Well, yeah, of course. She's like, fine, whatever. Now, Kion's doesn't.
Now we get them.
Kion's thing doesn't seem to have changed with the language. I agree. It seems like she just wants to, I don't know, consume him like normal. I don't know why they're both working together. How they could put aside the differences if their end result is different.
If we take into account that, they've come to understand that he is the embodiment of their dreams. Maybe their angle has changed slightly, just being with him, and they just want Crow gone.
Yeah,
but
that could be it.
They may still just want to be with him, even now. Like, they may not want to kill CJ, but they want him to be theirs in a more grounded sense. Quotation marks.
That's true.
But this is the end. But it's going to be really interesting to see how this. I'm flashing through the two goddess colors that she's got to deal with. But this is the end, and. Damn.
Not quite.
We get a little bit more.
We get Girl of the Hour about to save the day over
Girl
here.
of the Arc. He comes. Senpai. Bang.
This song makes me so unbelievably happy. I listened to this so many times.
Well. It fits so well.
And again, I feel like this is Ashley growing in power when we get this effect.
I do want to go on the record to say if Ali hadn't already voiced the trio of the Crow trio, she would be such a nail in for Ash. It's kind of scary with this trailer.
I won't play it because YouTube had a problem the last time I played a YouTube.
Yeah,
the last time I played a YouTube video from the Oot app, that being the intro for like the entire game, it crashed on me. So I'll link the YouTube video in the comments.
Yeah, you can link the. Well, I was just going to talk about the video. There's not a huge amount in the trailer beyond we get a glimpse of Hebe properly for the first time. Well, almost the first time.
Also, I agree with you, Rayze, in your last point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's we get a glimpse of Hebe properly, and we also get to see who I believe is going to be the primary antagonist for the arc, which is the throne CJ with his Fae companion.
Yeah.
Who takes on a very succubus-like form, which is interesting.
But
she looks very devilish, very devil-like with her horns and tail. So that's going to be really interesting. And I wonder how she's going to assuming the gang triumph over the dude, how are they going to handle someone who's doing, who's probably likely just doing what she's doing out of loyalty to her OG shard?
That's assuming
my guess is that CJ is going to end up consuming him and his powers, and then probably after consuming at least Alan, if not the other shards as well.
Yeah, I'm still of that theory because of whenever this guy was shown off the first time, we saw the other three CJ shards show up. I'm still of the opinion, because what has been said about Alan about Alan being important, and Alan fucking like death flags galore. Like, oh my god.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Alan. I feel like Alan is going
With
to
how
do a
powerful
big
this guy
self-sacrifice
looks like,
move.
yeah. Well, that or we as in like.
I mean, one of the other key elements from the trailer is we see OG's sword for the first time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's the prologue.
Well,
and
that's
we
that's
know
what
that
makes
the
me
sword
think.
and the throne are very important artifact items that are part of OG's.
So
like,
to me, that
identity.
sounds like, in order to claim the sword and the throne, you have to reach a certain level. Like, because it wouldn't make
More
sense
likely,
if
I think
any
it's a case of it
sort
might
of
be a
CJ
it might
Sharp
be a
could
Mjolnir,
claim
it might be a Mjolnir situation where only the worthy. So basically, only OG
well,
can take it. Real OG
The
can
OG,
take it.
yeah.
The
and
OG is the
that's
only one
why
who can take
this
it.
guy that we've seen on the throne, his eyes are so fucking narrow and shit. We've seen that happens whenever
Well, he doesn't.
like.
He's not wielding the sword. The sword is
No, I don't
locked
think
in,
he
right?
has it yet,
And
but I think
That's what
think
I'm
And in
saying. Though,
work
is
in-
that
my
Work in
theory
progress,
is
he's wielding something else.
he's got a mace.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got
My-
Sauron's stuff.
my theory is that he is that he's been absorbing other CJ shards, which would
Yes, that's my
which would
guess.
really
Agreed.
tie into
Yeah.
why the other three would exist there and why I think Alan's gonna die. I think he's gonna absorb Alan, and then at the end, this guy is either gonna die some way, obviously, right, or he's gonna not want to give up his claim to the throne, and he would rather die than give it up, and then CJ has to fucking absorb
But
him.
I feel like he likely sees himself as the heir. Like I
Yeah, no,
genuinely
for
think
sure.
that this
He
guy-
definitely
Yeah.
does.
He's going to see
Yeah,
himself as. So
for sure.
my guess is though.
You
But
don't
my
dress
feeling
like
is. My feeling is that Jacob, as in child Jacob, is going to see CJ as his heir and will appoint him as such, and that will let him wield the sword. Because again, remember, like I said, I'm pretty convinced that child CJ is OG, and therefore, if his soul is the same soul CJ has, if they share a soul or the connection is close enough where it's basically the same thing.
Again, do we still think that this news, that this throne CJ, do we think that he's a some sort of tie-in from Hebe herself, or do we think that he's
I think
just...
Yeah.
he's tied to Hebe herself. I think that Throne
'Cause I
CJ,
do too. I think the old theory still holds.
I
that.
think Throne CJ is Hebe's counterpart in the way that she used to be OG's counterpart, but with the way powered like
The
she-
dynamic
if-
shifted.
if
It would
she
make
wants
sense.
she wants to take on OG's role, right, as a creator. That's
Right.
what she's trying to do. Live up to it. That's my theory. Or our
Well,
theory,
it would
whatever
make
you
sense with why all the goddesses call her a fucking traitor. Like, the
Right.
only other person that they
And
call
they
that is
assume-
Crow,
They
who
assume it's
ended
out
it
of
all.
arrogance. They assume that it's out of like, oh, I want to take his power, ha ha ha. They think it's a thing. I think it's out
because
of
it's
love.
necessary.
I want to take his responsibility.
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah,
not
I think
his.
I think it's necessary because if she didn't do
Yeah.
it, then what was going to happen to the rest
Right.
of the?
and
you know-
also just out of love for OG, like
You know-
fulfill his role, take on his responsibility,
yeah, like
dream his dreams,
When-
continue his dreams.
Yeah.
we don't know, like when a god dies, like where does all that power go? Where does all that influence that power was like?
Yeah, I mean that's
Maintaining
probably the confusion,
go.
right?
Like, was it just gonna fucking disappear? Probably not.
So
I mean,
my guess is that Throne CJ is probably an OG shard that she found that was found from early on, like one of the first ones
Yep.
to emerge. And then she took him in and she was like, "Oh, is it my love back?" And she was like, "No, this isn't him." But I
think
still
that
need him.
came about after a while. Like
Yeah,
she
or something like that.
probably.
Yeah.
But
Oh
she
yeah,
still
no.
needs him
To me, it definitely
because
seems
she
like
needs-
he used to be the favorite. He used to be the chosen one, and now she's like, "You're clearly
Yes.
not him. I'm not gonna fucking support you anymore, but I'm not gonna kill you." either."
But she
Exactly.
still
And so now
needs
he's
him,
trying
right?
to do it
She
his
still-
own self.
She still needs him though, right? Because she cannot create in the same way that OG did, so she will need some element of OG to do that. I think that's what he represents. That there's an inextricable link between the two, between Hebe and this shard, who she's using him to enable, which is why that universe is described as being corrupted, because it's being made by a shard of OG that they don't see as, the goddesses say is not OG. So there's something wrong with that universe. They innately sense it, or maybe they factually know, or whatever. And that's why they see it as a nest of corruption, which is how Orso describes it. That whole
Yep.
universe is wrong.
Mhm.
And I think that's what they're sensing, is that it's,
Well, yeah,
it's
it's
a
a whole
universe that was
universe that-
created.
She hasn't
but
had
not
any
by
fucking
OG.
influence on.
Yeah, but it's a universe not created by OG. But and then I think, like I said, I think that guy is central to it, which is why Hebe hasn't gotten rid of him, and she's like stuck with him basically. But he thinks he's the real deal, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
That's my impression.
So he's got the throne and the sword, but he can't use at least he can't use the sword. When we don't even know if he can use the throne. Just because you're sitting on the throne doesn't mean it's your throne.
Honestly,
right?
yeah, who knows, right?
So
I find it interesting that the throne and the sword are not just like I find it way more interesting that they're like, I don't know, actual things that exist rather than being just manifestations.
I mean, it makes sense. Like a creator, like a writer needs a pen or something like that.
Well, sure, but like I would argue that like Carpo's throne is just like a part of her. Like if Carpo died, I would not expect that throne to be around somewhere. It's part of her
it's
soul.
An element
it's her own.
Yeah, it's an element.
Domain of fall.
Maybe they split it off, and they are in themselves shards of OG. It's just they're self-contained shards. Because
oh my god, sitting on the chair
break.
makes him more powerful. Holy shit.
Well, if you absorb them, don't forget that OG summoned the sword out of nothingness.
Yes.
He literally just called it forth. So, if the sword is like with him, spiritually,
weapons seem to be
with them.
I would argue
that's how it works with Kione.
Yeah, I would
Kione
argue.
Just draws out.
Well, yeah, and Tsukiko and Crow as well. I would argue it's definitely part of themselves. Like, I don't think.
Yeah. So if we see them as shards, kind of like shards, right, that fits. If we see them as shards, that kind of fits, but very particularly tailored pieces of his power set. Like the sword
you
is
just
used
don't get.
For,
I mean, it could just be a case of you don't get access to it until.
Well,
we don't see.
No. If it was a power threshold, I feel like some of the goddesses would have already made sure a shard got powerful enough so that they could claim them.
I don't mean necessarily a power threshold. Like, I mean, you have to meet the certain conditions.
Like we said earlier with the
enough of an OG.
Yeah, you have.
That's
because,
fucking
the
language is crazy.
I know.
Yeah, but it makes sense. And who better to do that than OG reborn himself? Like if Jacob, Child Chase CJ, really is OG reborn, right? What if those elements are still at play? What if him picking CJ and making him his successor and gives him his soul, and his soul merges completely with CJ's, making him therefore no longer a fake and his successor. Spiritually speaking, he's identical.
I think it's important that, and we got some of it in this chapter where Crow and Kieran and Sarah are kind of explaining things, where Sarah says, you are a distinct person from the Red Crow that we've been dealing with to Kieran.
Yeah.
We started out as the same. I think that's the same principle at play with CJ, in that he needs to accept that regardless of his formation, and even with all of the manipulation that he has been saddled with, he is still him. He is still living his life.
Yeah, this is the thing is though, is that CJ is explicitly the dream husband, right? The ideal of all these four goddesses made real. Okay, so if we think about that for a minute and what that actually means beyond a surface level, it means that he embodies all the aspects of the personality that they loved the most in OG.
Mm-hmm. And if Jacob, child CJ, is the original building block that was needed, that element remains there. That's still OG, regardless of the strings that the four have put on him. That core is still there, as Jamie,
which is what allows him to gain more autonomy as the story goes along.
Yes,
his interference in the cause of defense, how he manages to, because he's key in their defeat of Kione, indirectly even of their defeat of Carpo as well.
Yep.
So I feel like he's like, it's what allows him to become free in the first place. Because if he was just a puppet and he existed solely as a puppet, when the strings were cut, he shouldn't be able to do anything. He probably would have
Exactly.
ceased. He would have ceased.
Yep.
But he's still here.
I think he needs to recognize that. I think that's important for him.
Step
And
forward.
with what Jamie does in this chapter of helping him to realize you're still a person who can make your own choices.
Yeah.
Here's your first choice without their influence.
Yeah. Explicitly without their influence. I mean, I think he's made choices along the way so far.
I agree.
That have been in opposition to what they would want him to do. So he has de facto. But this is the only first time he's known it, you know?
Right.
Like, empirically making a choice completely separate from them in a way that he knows is true.
Yes, I agree.
But it's, really good. Thank you for joining us, ladies and
incredible
gentlemen.
episode. Thank you for joining us, Omen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Be happy to come
I'm sure
back
you'll be back in
anytime.
the future. Yeah. It's this chapter isn't that long, but I feel like it's very dense in its emotional fallout as we've spent a lot of time talking.
It
And
was
also,
supposed to be one that came out
it's
with the
it's
other
a coda. It's a coda to 51 and 52, right? Like it's very much like this is the immediate consequence, and then I feel like we're really kicking things off for Ash's arc with 53 and onwards, which is where we're going to get really into the meat of things. Because man, is there a lot to get through. We've got so many unanswered questions just from the previous arc. We still haven't dealt with Rebecca. We still haven't gone to see Stacy and Sonia again for answers from them. Like, there are so many questions that we still have left outstanding.
Yep.
But all right.
Yes,
Thank you,
Please
ladies
do
and
join us
gentlemen.
again in the future. Yeah, please do join us again in the future while we attempt to navigate things and probably get it like 50-50 wrong, but
I think we got some
try.
good stuff in today that was correct.
I gotta say,
I
the theory we came up with for explaining why the goddesses don't remember, really good stuff, guys, really good. Please do mention in the comments or speak in the Discord to us about any of the stuff we've mentioned today, and have a good one, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Thank
Have
you
a good
so much
one,
for
all.
watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.